All right, so have you had a chance to finish Dune, Prophecy?
Yeah, definitely.
And that ending with that new military unit they introduced. Whoa. Talk about a cliffhanger, right?
Oh, for sure. Definitely left me wanting more.
Yeah, same here. And I know you're a huge Dune fan, too, just like me.
Oh, absolutely. Been hooked ever since I was a kid.
So this ending really got our brains buzzing, huh? Especially with all the speculation going around.
Yeah, like, who are these soldiers exactly?
Right, and how do they connect to the Sardaukar?
It's a big question a lot of fans are asking.
Well, luckily we found this great article from CBR that dives into that whole mystery. It even covers some fan theories.
Sounds like a good deep dive to me.
You ready to jump in?
Absolutely, let's do it.
Perfect. So, Dune, Prophecy, takes place a whopping 10,000 years before the original Dune story.
Yeah, way back.
And that's causing some serious head-scratching among fans.
No kidding. It's throwing a lot of people off.
Because seeing a Sardaukar-like force this early seems to go against some of the core Dune lore.
You said it. Especially when you think about their whole connection to Salusa Secundus.
Okay, hold on a sec. For anyone listening who might be newer to the Dune world, could you break down who the Sardaukar are and why this whole Salusa Secundus thing is such a big deal?
Sure, no problem. So in the original Dune, the Sardaukar are like the Emperor's elite shock troops.
Yeah, they're those badasses everyone's afraid of.
Exactly. And even in the original book, they're shrouded in mystery. But later on, we learn that their scary reputation comes from their training on Salusa Secundus.
Which is?
It's this super harsh, super desolate prison planet.
Oh, so it's not just that they're tough soldiers. The environment itself makes them brutal.
Exactly. It's like survival of the fittest on steroids.
I see. So basically, Salusa Secundus is like a giant boot camp from hell.
You got it. It's a place that forges warriors, not breaks them.
And Frank Herbert, the author, was really into those ecological ideas.
Oh, yeah. He was big on that. Like how a harsh environment can really push people to adapt.
Sometimes in pretty extreme ways.
You said it. And Salusa Secundus is like the ultimate example of that.
A crucible.
Yeah, that's a good word for it.
Okay, now I'm starting to see the problem here.
Yeah, what is it?
So the article we're looking at points out that in Dune, Prophecy, Salusa Secundus is shown as totally different.
Really?
Yeah, it's not a wasteland at all. It's actually habitable.
What?
Yeah. And not only that, it's like the center of the Carino Empire.
Wow. That's a pretty big difference.
It's a huge contrast.
So that brings up a big question, doesn't it?
What's that?
Can you really create the Sardaukar, like those ultimate warriors we know, without that brutal environment?
It's like saying you can have the Fremen without the desert.
Right. It's like what makes them who they are.
For anyone just tuning in, the Fremen are those fierce desert warriors from Arrakis.
Yeah, they're like the other side of the coin in the Dune universe.
And what's interesting is that both groups, the Fremen and the Sardaukar, are arguably the toughest fighters in the Dune universe.
Absolutely they are.
Both products of their environments, both shaped by hardship and all that struggle.
Yeah, you almost need that to create warriors like that.
But Dune, Prophecy, is kind of throwing a wrench in that whole idea.
At least for the Sardaukar it is.
Yeah. The article we're looking at, it mentions a few fan theories from the comments section.
Oh yeah, what are people saying?
Well, some folks are saying that this new military unit in the show, they're like a prototype of the Sardaukar.
Like Sardaukar version 1.0.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Maybe they haven't fully evolved into the terrors we know and fear yet.
Interesting.
What do you think?
I don't know, it feels a little too convenient to me, like the showrunners are trying to sidestep the issue.
Which makes me wonder, could there be another training ground? One we haven't seen yet.
Oh, like a secret location?
Yeah, maybe somewhere even harsher than Salusa Secundus is shown in the show. It would keep that link between environment and brutality.
Ooh, now that's an intriguing thought.
Right. And it wouldn't contradict what we see in Dune, Prophecy.
No, it would actually make things even more mysterious.
I'm getting chills just thinking about it. What could this secret location be like?
It could be anything. A hidden fortress, a black site program that even most of the Imperium doesn't know about.
And that secrecy would definitely fit with the whole aura of mystery around the Sardaukar.
For sure. Even in the original books, their origins are kept vague.
Like on purpose.
Yeah.
It adds to their fear factor.
Exactly. Keeps everyone guessing.
Okay, so we've got the prototype theory, the secret training ground theory.
What else is there?
Well, there's another idea floating around that's a little more, I don't know, philosophical.
Philosophical, huh? I'm listening.
Okay, so this idea is that Dune, Prophecy, is showing us the Sardaukar in their early stages. Not physically, but ideologically.
So they're not just physically developing, but their whole belief system is too.
Exactly. Maybe they start as a more typical military force. But the events of the show, the conflicts and choices they face, that's what twists them into the fanatics we see later.
So instead of a specific location, it's the experiences themselves that make them ruthless.
Exactly. It's not just about where they train, but what they're forced to do, the moral compromises they have to make in the Emperor's name.
That's a chilling thought. Watching them become monsters right before our eyes.
I know, right? It makes you wonder,
Yeah.
how much of the Sardaukar is nature versus nurture?
Like how much is their environment versus their actions?
Right. And that's what makes this deep dive so fascinating to me. It's not just a continuity error.
It's deeper than that.
Yeah, we're grappling with questions of identity, power, and the very nature of evil.
And it all ties back to the larger themes of Dune itself. Control versus freedom. Humanity versus the harshness of the universe.
Exactly. And seeing the Sardaukar in this new light, it makes you think about the Carino dynasty in a new way, too.
What do you mean?
Well, if the Sardaukar are already this organized and effective this early in the timeline, it suggests a whole different level of ruthlessness.
Like they've been planning this for millennia.
Exactly. It means the Carinos have been playing a long game.
It's a scary thought.
And maybe Dune, Prophecy, is showing us how they play that game, what strategies they use, the sacrifices they're willing to make, all to maintain their grip on the Imperium.
You know, you've got a point. So as we go deeper into this deep dive, we have to keep that bigger picture in mind.
The Sardaukar aren't just scary warriors. They're a tool, a symbol of the Carino dynasty's ambitions.
Right. And that makes their origins super important for understanding the whole Dune saga.
Okay, so we've got these three main possibilities for how the Sardaukar fit into Dune. Prophecy. But what stood out to you the most?
You know, I'm fascinated by the potential for psychological manipulation here. Like, we tend to focus on the physical brutality of Salusa Secundus, but what about the mental conditioning, the indoctrination?
It's like, how do you create a warrior who not only embraces pain, but sees it as, like, a path to glory?
Yeah, that to me is even more terrifying.
Yeah, you're right. And it's something we don't often see explored in the Dune universe. We see the results, the fanatic loyalty, the willingness to die. But the process of creating that mindset, that's scary.
And Dune, Prophecy, might actually give us a glimpse into that process. We might see how they're trained, how they're indoctrinated, how they're transformed.
That's what makes this deep dive so exciting. We're not just revisiting familiar ground, we're going into uncharted territory.
It's like we're explorers, charting a new course.
Okay, so we've covered a lot, but we're just getting started. I'm dying to get into some specifics.
Yeah, let's get into the nitty-gritty.
Their training, their culture, what makes them tick. Where do we even begin?
Let's start with their training. It's as brutal and intense as you can imagine.
All right, let's get into it.
So we know from later Dune books, their training is notoriously brutal.
Yeah, hardcore to the max.
It's this intense mix of physical conditioning, combat drills, and like a ton of psychological manipulation.
Wow, so they're not just training bodies.
No way. It's about breaking down minds and rebuilding them in the Emperor's image.
It's like creating a living weapon.
Exactly.
I remember reading about the Sardaukar's pain tolerance.
Oh, yeah.
They're practically numb to it. How do you even train someone for that?
Well, it's more than just pushing them to their physical limits.
Oh, so there's more to it.
It's deeper. They're taught to suppress fear, to see pain as a test, almost like a ritual.
Or a ritual, huh?
Think of it like some twisted form of Zen meditation. But instead of finding peace, they're finding power.
In the heart of suffering.
Right.
Intense.
Yeah.
And I guess it makes sense given their role in the Imperium.
What do you mean?
Well, they're not just soldiers.
No.
They're enforcers, a symbol of the Emperor's absolute authority.
It's like a reminder, don't mess with the Emperor.
Right. They have to be unbreakable, physically and mentally.
Absolutely. And you have to remember, this is a feudal society we're talking about.
Oh, right.
The great houses are always trying to grab more power, you know, always testing the limits.
Yeah, pushing boundaries.
Sardaukar are the Emperor's way of saying, nope.
Like a nuclear deterrent, but with scary warriors instead of bombs.
Exactly. They crush any rebellion before it even starts.
And that's why their training is so important.
It's crucial.
It's not just about winning battles. It's about instilling fear.
Projecting power.
Making everyone think twice before they even think about stepping out of line.
Exactly.
It almost sounds like they're being conditioned into like a religious zeal.
Yeah.
Like they're not just fighting for the Emperor, they're worshiping him.
There's definitely that cult-like aspect to it.
Yeah.
This warrior code, absolute loyalty, self-sacrifice, it's intense.
Wow. That's pretty disturbing.
Yeah.
I mean, the dedication's impressive, but you can't ignore the dark side of it.
It definitely raises some ethical questions.
Oh, sure.
But I think that's what makes them so fascinating as characters.
What do you mean?
They represent this extreme of human potential, both physical and mental.
It's like they're a cautionary tale. What happens when power goes unchecked?
Exactly. When control becomes the only goal.
Okay, so we've talked about their brutal training and their role as enforcers, but what about their culture?
Their culture.
Yeah, their beliefs, their values, the things that make them tick beyond just blind obedience.
Well, that's where things get really interesting, because even in the books, Herbert doesn't give us all the answers.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we know they're fanatically loyal to the emperor, but what's the underlying philosophy?
What drives that loyalty?
Right. Is it just the training, or is there something more?
Something deeper. Maybe even spiritual.
Maybe. You know, remember earlier we were talking about the Fremen?
The desert warriors from Arrakis.
Yeah. They're like the only force that can really rival the Sardaukar in combat.
And they have that deep spiritual connection to their environment, right?
Yeah.
Their whole belief system is tied to the desert.
Exactly. To survival, hardship.
It makes you wonder if the Sardaukar have something similar.
You think so?
Yeah. A belief system forged in the fires of Salusa Secundus.
Interesting.
Maybe they see their suffering as a path to enlightenment, a way to transcend their physical limitations.
Like two sides of the same coin, each shaped by hardship but with different interpretations.
That's a great way to put it. And it would explain why they're so effective, so fearless.
They're not just fighting for a cause, they're fighting for something bigger.
It gives me chills. It's like they're a force of nature, unleashed by the Carino dynasty.
And I think that's what makes them so compelling. They represent that primal force, that dark energy lurking beneath the surface.
In all of us.
Right. They remind us that even in advanced societies, the capacity for violence is always there.
Okay, so we've covered their training, their loyalty, their potential spiritual side. What else?
We haven't even talked about their weapons and tactics.
Oh, right.
Even though they're known for hand-to-hand combat, they're not just mindless berserkers. There's a method to their madness.
Oh, yeah. Their knives.
The Krisk knives.
Those crazy sharp blades made from sandworm teeth.
It's almost impossible to block them.
In Dune, prophecy could show us how their weaponry evolved.
Good point.
Do they already have Krisk knives in this era? Or are they using something else?
It would be so cool to see the early versions of their gear.
I know. We all know that iconic Sardaukar look from the later books. Those black uniforms, helmets with the snouts.
Psychological warfare, looking like ruthless predators.
So in Dune, prophecy, maybe we'll see a different aesthetic, something reflecting this new Salusa Secundus.
Maybe their armor's more ceremonial, less about function.
Like we're watching their culture be born, seeing the seeds of their brutality being planted.
And that's what makes this deep dive so fascinating.
I know, right?
You're not just learning about the Sardaukar.
We're witnessing their genesis.
Seeing them transform from nothing into legend.
Okay, but even if we don't have all the visual details yet,
We can still talk tactics.
yeah, what makes them so effective on the battlefield?
Speed, agility, precision. They use flanking maneuvers, overwhelming their opponents with sheer ferocity.
And they're experts in hand-to-hand combat, right?
Up close and personal, they rely on knives and swords.
It's all about instilling terror, breaking the enemy's spirit.
Exactly. They understand the power of fear.
So we've got these incredibly tough, fanatically loyal warriors, experts in close combat and psychological warfare. Are they unbeatable?
While no one is truly invincible,
Really? So even the Sardaukar have weaknesses.
everyone has a weakness.
Okay, I'm all ears. What are their weak spots? How do you beat a force like that?
One potential weakness is their reliance on hand-to-hand combat. If you can keep your distance, exploit their lack of ranged weapons, you might stand a chance.
So someone like the Fremen, masters of guerrilla warfare, they could maybe exploit that.
Yeah.
Hit-and-run tactics.
Exactly. Use the environment to their advantage. The Fremen are a perfect counterpoint to the Sardaukar.
Which makes me think maybe they're too rigid, too focused on following orders. They might not adapt well to unexpected situations.
That's a good point. Their strict cod, it can be a strength and a weakness, makes them disciplined but predictable.
So if you can anticipate their moves, disrupt their formations, you could turn their rigidity against them.
It's like a game of chess, finding the right moves to outmaneuver your opponent.
And Dune, prophecy, could give us more insights into how their tactics evolve. Maybe we'll see them make mistakes, learn from their failure.
Become even deadlier.
It's like watching them level up.
Yeah, in skills and ruthlessness.
But how much of their evolution comes from their training? And how much is shaped by what happens in the show?
By the events, the conflicts, the choices.
Yeah, all of that.
Maybe Dune prophecy will show us how the Sardaukar are shaped not just by Salusa Secundus, but by the very history they're helping to create.
That's a cool idea. They're products of their environment, but also creators of their own destiny.
And that's what makes them such compelling characters.
Even though they're often portrayed as these faceless soldiers.
Right. There's something about that anonymity that's even more terrifying.
Like a force of nature.
Yeah.
An unstoppable wave.
But Dune prophecy has the potential to humanize them.
To give us a glimpse behind the mask.
To show the individuals within the collective.
That would be amazing. To see their motivations, doubts, maybe even compassion under all that conditioning.
Because ultimately they're still human, susceptible to emotions.
And those cracks in their armor.
That's what makes them truly fascinating.
Okay, so training, culture, tactics, weaknesses. What else is there?
We haven't really talked about their impact on the whole Dune universe.
Oh yeah, it's bigger than just them.
Exactly. They're not just an isolated force. They play a crucial role.
I'm starting to realize that. They're like a keystone species in the Dune ecosystem.
You got it. Their presence changes everything.
Okay, I'm ready to zoom out. Let's talk about the bigger picture. The Sardaukar's impact on the entire Dune saga. Okay, so we've talked a ton about the Sardaukar themselves, their training, their potential spiritual side, even their weaknesses. But I'm really curious, like, how do they fit into the whole Dune story? They feel like they're more than just, a military force.
Oh, you're definitely right about that. If you think about the big picture, the whole Dune saga, the Sardaukar represent something way bigger.
Yeah, what's that?
They're a symbol of the Carino Empire's power, the force that keeps so much of the galaxy under their control.
So it's not just that they're strong. They represent the whole system that characters like Paul Atreides end up challenging.
Exactly. They embody that tyranny that Paul's whole journey is about overthrowing.
And they're like the total opposite of what the Fremen stand for, right? Freedom, adaptability, that deep connection to nature.
It's like two totally different philosophies of power clashing. And by putting the Sardaukar in Dune prophecy, the showrunners are setting the stage for that conflict.
Yeah. And that conflict echoes throughout the entire saga.
Exactly. We're seeing the very beginning of a struggle that's going to shape the fate of the Imperium for, generations to come.
And that's what makes this whole conversation so relevant. We're not just nerding out about cool warriors.
We're going deeper, way deeper.
We're uncovering the foundation of a story that spans thousands of years.
And you're right. It is kind of like watching that first domino fall, knowing that it's all going to lead up to Paul Atreides, the Spice Wars, everything.
Exactly. Okay, so if we zoom out even further, even beyond the original books.
Beyond the original books.
What's the Sardaukar's legacy? How do they still influence the universe after the first book ends?
Oh, that's where things get really, really interesting. Because even though their power fades after Paul takes over, the legend of the Sardaukar, it doesn't go away.
It lives on.
Oh, yeah. It becomes a cautionary tale, a reminder of what happens when power and fanaticism go unchecked.
So it's like their brutality becomes a stain on the Carino dynasty.
Right. A symbol of their corruption.
Which makes their presence in Dune prophecy even more fascinating.
Yeah, because are we seeing them at their strongest? Or is this the start of their downfall?
Or maybe, and this is a scary thought, they evolve into something even more terrifying than what we see in the books.
Oh man, don't even get me started. The possibilities are endless.
Okay, so we've talked about the Sardaukar's legacy. But how does having them around so early in the timeline affect other players? Like, what about the Bene Gesserit?
Oh, that's a great point.
They've got their own schemes going on.
Breeding programs, genetic manipulation, pulling strings from the shadows. It's hard to say how they view the Sardaukar.
Right. Are the Sardaukar a threat? A tool to be used? Or both?
It's like everyone's playing this giant game of chess, and the Sardaukar are this wild card that can mess everything up.
And as Dune prophecy keeps going, I bet we'll see all of that play out.
How the Bene Gesserit try to influence the Sardaukar, how they deal with the Carinos.
It's like watching the seeds of the future being planted. But we have no idea what's going to bloom.
It's exciting, isn't it?
I know, right? So we started this deep dive with a simple question. How could the Sardaukar exist this early?
And we found so much more than just an answer.
We've gone deep into their training, their beliefs, their weapons, their impact on the Dune universe.
We really peeled back the layers of this mystery.
And found a whole universe of possibilities underneath.
And this is just the start. As Dune prophecy continues, there's going to be even more to uncover.
More to debate, more to be amazed by.
Definitely.
So, before we wrap up, I have one last thing for everyone to think about.
All right, hit me with it.
Dune. Prophecy is already messing with our expectations about the Sardaukar. Their origins, their evolution, everything. What if this is just the beginning?
The beginning.
Yeah, what if other stuff we thought we knew about Dune gets challenged too as the show goes on?
Wow, that's a really good question. It makes you wonder, what other surprises are they hiding? Could events we thought were set in stone actually have deeper, more complex origins?
Could characters we thought we knew be totally different?
The possibilities are endless.
That's what I love about these deep dives. It's not about finding all the answers, it's about asking even more questions.
It's about staying curious and never stopping that search for knowledge.
Exactly. So, as you keep watching Dune, Prophecy, keep your eyes open, your mind open, and get ready to question everything you thought you knew about the Dune universe.
Because the best deep dives, they're the ones that leave you with more questions than answers.
The ones that keep you coming back for more. And who knows, maybe our next deep dive will uncover even more secrets hiding in the sands of Arrakis. Until then, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deeper into this amazing world of Dune.